Hello, everybody. It is time for our Chill Friday night Q&A hangout. If you would like to grow as an artist and you can't afford an art class, we've got everything you need here at Art Prof: critiques, tutorials, and professional development. Tell me in the chat what is happening this week artistically for you. I was very excited because I got some treats in the mail from a very generous member of our community. I'm going to wait until later in the stream to unbox it. But my other very exciting news is that I finally posted this tutorial, which I shot 2 years ago, finally got around to editing it. And it is on my second YouTube channel. Yes, I'm crazy. This is to separate my art adventures content from the Art Prof content. And yes, you should subscribe. And the video that I just posted is this trip that I made with Ashley and Jordan. We went to Mammoth Lakes in California, and it's this bizarre landscape. It's called Mono Lake. And you can see I did a sketch using bamboo, reed pen, charcoal pencil, all kinds of other media added to this piece. And I was drawing these things. They're called tufas. They're these gigantic towers that are actually supposed to be underwater. And so the lake levels have just dropped so dramatically that these tufas that you see, they're supposed to be underwater, but they are no longer obviously underwater. And I know I'm nuts having a second YouTube channel, but if I ever get my pipe dream of having my own streaming service art and travel channel, I'm going to have to show that I've got the chops to make that happen, because we have lots of travel content here on YouTube that I've done in other places, but I really wanted to consolidate it into one place. So naturally, that channel is not remotely as big as the channel we have here, but I like that it's its own little place where I can do some experiments. Sometimes when you're a smaller channel, it can actually be sort of fun because not a lot of people are paying attention. And when your channel's big like this one is, oh boy, are people paying attention. People are very angry with me about Matisse lately on Instagram. Like, just because he's in the art history book, it doesn't mean I have to worship him. I mean, sure, there are plenty of artists in art history who are in the book, but maybe are not my cup of tea. So I hope you guys get an opportunity to see this video at Mono Lake. It's a short video. It's about 12 minutes. And yes, it took like 2 hours per minute to edit because I did my full out thing, which is basically when I have my DSLR camera and I'm recording audio. It's the type of video that I love to make, but rarely can justify because it takes so long to produce a video like this. And it generally does not do much in terms of revenue. In fact, here's some perspective for you guys who are wondering, because people oftentimes think that we're rolling in cash because we have a big channel. This is not true. I was looking at our analytics this week because YouTube will actually tell you how much money each video has earned so far. And that Andrew Raftery video about his watercolors, I found it today. It's made $28 so far. I'm like, yes! Maybe I'm getting paid 50 cents for, I don't know, 3 hours of work. It's a pretty bad rate when it comes to making that revenue. And we've got lots of people here saying hello. Let's do our unboxing because that's always so much fun. And by the way, if you want to send me art supplies that you would like to see me test out, I've had a lot of people sending me stuff of paints that I've never used before. So for example, I did that unboxing with the Daniel Smith watercolors, Somebody sent me egg tempera, which I'd never used in my life. And another person sent me those golden acrylic paints. And so I'm learning a lot because I'm starting to figure out what those different paints are like, and therefore can make recommendations for a lot of you guys. Okay, let's see. Oh, I see a box of paints. Check it out, you guys. This is my first set of golden fluid acrylics. I've always seen these, but I've never bought them before. Tell me in the chat, who here has used fluid acrylics before? And tell me what brand, because Golden, I think, is very reliable for their acrylic paint products. I do recommend them, but they're not cheap. Of course, you pay for what you get. But let's open this up. Let's see what the box looks like. Oh, cute. See this? Oh, these little cute bottles. Check that out. A yellow that I can't pronounce. Benzimidazolone yellow light. I have no idea what that paint color is supposed to be. Let's see what some of the other ones are. Okay, cool. So this is a set. Uh-oh, you guys, I'm in trouble. This is phthalo blue. A paint I'm not that good friends with. Oh, here's the same yellow, but it's medium. The other one was light. And it looks like it's also got some tasty looking reds, quinacridone magenta, and naphthol red light. And neither of these colors are colors that I've ever used before. So I'm very excited. And you know something, you guys, there's one more thing in the package. I just think this is so brilliant. Look at this. There's one tube of Daniel Smith watercolor. I think somebody really, really wants me to try Moonglow Daniel Smith watercolors. I think Moonglow is supposed to be shimmery. I can't remember, but maybe one of you knows in the chat what Moonglow means, because it sounds awesome. And I believe that Nancy sent me these art supplies. So thank you so much, Nancy, for sending these to me. I'm so grateful for the way, basically, you guys are making the content now, because these art supplies, I would never do the stream on my own, because first of all, I have to get the art supply. But second of all, there's so many paints that you guys are sending me that I didn't even know about. And so I am very, very grateful for that. And even going to Southern Graphics Council conference and producing all of those videos on printmaking, that also would not have happened without this community. So when you guys help us in that way, it's incredible what we can do. And Lisa's asking, do artists use squeegees on fluids? I don't know. I always associate squeegees with silkscreen. And actually, silkscreen, I really don't have a lot of experience with. It's one of the few printmaking techniques I just never got to do. Oh, Jen has Moonglow, and it looks like Brazen also knows what Moonglow is. And Angela has a few bottles of Liquitex fluid, great for washes. That's one of the reasons, Angela, I'm really excited, because I'm a very thin painter. In general, I'm not really somebody who likes big, plump blobs of acrylic. And so this might be a really good companion to acrylic inks, which actually I think out of everything we're talking about is probably more my preference. I use it a lot in conjunction with watercolor. And most of the time when I'm using heavy body acrylics, it's because I'm trying to fix a mistake. I mean, that's the only reason I ever use acrylics. Looks like Brandon has started the 2500 challenge. Well, that's fantastic. I hope, Brandon, that you will share your progress in the Discord, because we have a couple people in there who are making great progress. It's really nice to egg each other's on. And J. Patrick, representative acrylic landscapes on paper. Nice. And Rural Groom is here from Central Georgia. Tell me in the chat, where are you? Because I love hearing all the places that people are from. It's really extraordinary. Yes, you did miss Egg Tempera live, but it is available to see the replay. And it's one of those materials where you try it, you're like, well, I could just dedicate the rest of my life learning egg tempera, or I could just have a takeaway and tell people about the experience, which hopefully is valuable enough. But I was struck with the egg tempera. It was so smooth and so subtle, which is also what made me realize, oh my gosh, these Renaissance paintings in egg tempera, they must have just been so incredibly time consuming. Yeah, Mystical Wren, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them. I've been not painting very much, although I do really need to paint my Dune 2 poster because I don't know if you guys saw. Let me pull it up. It's right here. Of course, I just knocked over everything on my shelf, but this is the new Dune thumbnail that I did because I did see Dune 2 and it was the wrong Bene Gesserit. Tell me in the chat who here saw Dune 2 and did you like it or not? All I can say is that it was very loud because we saw it in IMAX and the whole theater was like shaking from all the sound. That was kind of cool though. Oh yeah, Jen, I tried the watercolor ground, but I guess I need to do that on another stream because of course I had to let it dry. I'd be curious to try it on something three-dimensional because I had no idea that that was a use that they had for that. And remember, pick my brain. I'm giving you answers. Everybody see the little text at the bottom? Pick my brain about anything you'd like to know about art because there's lots of resources out there and we can watch all the videos in the world, but I think it is very different when you get to just ask the question. Me, myself is saying, how did you get better with being anatomy accurate? Also Florida. So much of it is training your eye. People oftentimes think anatomy is about, oh, you can draw something really well. And that's part of it. But a big part of it is learning how to identify specific landmarks on any person. Because sometimes people will say to me, well, I can't do anatomy with this model because this model is not that muscular. But the thing is, that's why it's extra important to be able to identify landmarks on somebody for whom it's not super obvious. Because most people are not all pumped like that. Your average person probably is not. And so knowing that you can identify, okay, I know where the acromion process is. That's a bone that's up here on your shoulder. And knowing, okay, I could identify that bone on a thin person, on a larger person, on an older person. I think that is the more compelling thing. So I don't worry as much about accuracy as much as I think about knowing what it is I'm drawing. Because sometimes if I'm doing a figure drawing, and I suspect some of you guys have had the same experience, where you look at something and you go, oh, there's a little bump there. And a big part of it is being able to say, what is that little bump? Is that little bump a bone? Is it the end of a muscle? Is it a tendon? And so that's to me more what anatomy is about, is learning how to identify things. Texas, Chicago, more Texas, California, Cornwall, nice. Northwest Georgia, Melbourne, Australia, west of Boston, Northwest Washington, fantastic. Jen's asking, have you been thinking about those new anatomy courses? I have. In fact, I was just thinking about them this morning and how I promised and haven't filmed them yet. It's been a little crazy because I went to that printmaking conference and next Wednesday, I'm going to LA and there's going to be a lot of museum visits because I wormed my way into the Getty. I was very proud of that. And then I have to come back and recover because every time I take a trip, there's always a week of recovery. I have to catch up and do a million things. So I'm hoping once that's settled down, once the dust has settled, I'll be able to get into that. But I'm trying to figure out how to structure it because so much of how we learn things online is contingent upon the delivery and the format. So actually tell me in the chat, give me some help here. We're going to revamp the anatomy series with our good friend. Oh, I don't think you guys can see him. Logan. He's my life-size skeleton that Magda so generously gave me. Would you prefer new anatomy videos as a series of shorts? Do you prefer the longer lecture things? Because here's what I'm going to do differently. So in the old anatomy series, it was more lecture style where I would assemble a slide lecture and talk about it. But what I want to do this time, hang on, it's on my shelf. I've got all of these little toys that people have given me at various raffles. So you guys see this? This is spine. So my whole idea for the new anatomy series is that I will do everything 3D. So I won't make a slide of the spine. I'll just hold it and show you guys that, okay, that's the anterior superior iliac spine. This bone here is the great trochanter. And then here we have the sacrum. And I think that'll be really fun because I've never really taught anatomy with all these 3D models. But actually, that was the way I used to teach anatomy at RISD's. They had all those life-size skeletons, and I would wheel them upstairs to the classroom, and I'd have an easel and talk to people about it, and it's really, really fun. But it's challenging because there are drawbacks and also advantages to short form content and longer lectures. So if you guys want longer lectures, tell me about how long. Do you guys like 5 minutes? Do you like 20? I don't think I'm going to go longer than 30 because that ends up being a lot of editing. Although the way I do the long ones, I think I'll just like press film and act like I'm just in the classroom teaching. It probably won't be like a heavy editing thing. So tell me the length. Shorts, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20, 30. I mean, I can talk forever. So we'll just see. It depends on it. What I am trying to do, though, is to offer content in multiple formats. So some of you guys may have seen I've been cutting a lot of shorts about casting, doing the rubber mold for the Aaron Tveit portrait bust that I sculpted. And so I'm doing the shorts, but when I'm done with all the shorts, I'm going to edit them together into one long horizontal video. So tell me what works. It's hard to say because obviously everybody has such a different preference depending on who they are and how they learn. Wow, that's dedication, Chillwave, 3 a.m. to get your art advice. Awesome. So I'm not going to pull up all the responses about the videos and their length, but I am going to look at them all so I can see what people are saying. All right, we've got some other questions that people are asking. Brandon says, I've been practicing line art and confident strokes. I draw from the elbow and shoulder, but don't know if I should lift my hand from the paper when I draw. Do you have any tips? There's no correct way. I will say that when I started gesture drawing at the very beginning, I don't lift my hand from the paper because there's just more fluidity. It's more continuous. Like if I have my pencil and I'm doing multiple lines, like every time I pick up my pencil to make a line, I'm basically starting a new line. And so that is oftentimes, number one, much slower. And number two, it fragments your line. So in the beginning, I usually have like a piece of Conte crayon and I'm not even really holding it. I'm more just putting it in between my fingers and pushing it around. So I do find that helpful. But again, there's no right or wrong as far as what works. But I do like doing a continuous line in the beginning where my hand is not leaving that paper. What? It's National Teachers Day? I did not know that. Wow, you guys want an hour? Really? You want to listen to me talk about the anterior superior iliac spine for that long? I mean, I could totally do it. That's really funny because people are always craving shorter, but I guess there is a big nerdy audience like ours that does enjoy that in-depth stuff. Yeah, you guys are so funny. You're the opposite of all these other audiences. You guys are all telling me that you like the long videos. Oh my gosh, this is really funny. There's so many of you that want long form. Oh, you bet. Well, because the Deadpool Wolverine movie is coming out, so we're going to have some shots from that. So Blue Will says, with anatomy, I'd like to know what you're looking at in the reference and how you think about it. That's great. Excellent. And Brazen says 30 minutes with timestamps. You could make shorter individual videos. Shorts do not pay enough to bother with the heavy editing. Well, it's difficult because the shorts are bringing in new people, which is important. Our horizontal videos have not done that well lately. And so that's why I'm thinking to try the anatomy series. It's just a totally new format that we haven't done before. Yes, I know you guys are all nerds. That's why I love you so much. And remember, keep picking my brain, ask me your questions, or even make suggestions for future topics, things you want to see us do. I'm very excited about LA because I'm going to be going to, gosh, there's a lot of museums. There's the Broad Museum, the Getty Villa, and LACMA. I feel like there's LA MoCA as well. I can't remember the list very well, but there's some really amazing things happening there. Yeah, Katz, I like to think about the shorts. It's like handing out little samplers at Costco. It's like you get a little crumb of something and then you decide you want to eat the entire cake. So we'll see. I'll try a bunch of different things. It could be that some topics really are worth a full deep hour dive, but I think you guys know I have no qualms about just trying whatever and saying, oh, that didn't work. Let's try something else. And that's something that I have found to be essential, not just for videos and social media, but as an artist, just to say, I did that. It didn't work. Let's try this, which sounds simple, but is hard to do. I think sometimes we really want to feel that, oh, we're making progress. We have concrete evidence that something is getting better. But sometimes you just have to say, that didn't work. Okay, move on, do something else. Sometimes that's really helped me a lot, especially because I feel like at the very least, I'm doing something different. Because even if I'm not learning anything, even if it's not better, I had the experience of something that is not the same. And that in itself, I think is very, very important. And Ginger is asking, and keep your questions coming into the chat. Happy to answer anything that's on your mind. Any advice for big projects? About to start new work for my BFA show. Going to be working on it from now until December. So scared, but so excited. I mean, I'm so happy for you, Ginger, that you have this big project because you're going to learn no matter what. It's one thing to make work, or maybe you're practicing a skill and so you're doing all these exercises, that type of thing. But there's something very exciting about a project that's maybe more official because you're doing it in school. I would recommend having checkpoints between now and December. And so if you have a loose map of, let's just say, okay, in 2 weeks, I'm done with thumbnails. By week 3, I've stretched the canvases. By week 4, I'm going to work on the color palette that week. And now I have to have all the paintings started by this week. And those checkpoints are really helpful because it makes it less overwhelming. If we just think about start, done, it's really scary. So don't think about it that way. Try to divide it up into manageable pieces so you don't feel so overwhelmed. Mystical says, need help with values. Should I try painting grayscale as an exercise? Any other tips? I love color, so gray is not my go-to. Sounds like you're my foil because I love black and white. I probably dream in black and white. It's just what I breathe. Okay, you certainly can do a grayscale, but I think oftentimes that is hard to translate into the application of a painting. It's sort of like you can paint a color wheel, but not really understand how to get from the color wheel to an actual painting. It's the application. Same thing with anatomy. A lot of people, they'll know the names of muscles, but they don't know how to actually put that information, how to implement it into their drawings. I think a better thing to do would be to set up some still lives. I mean, you could even try, whatever you've got sitting around and play with lighting, because lighting is what will help you really notice the range of values. So for example, if you put a really harsh light on something, it's probably going to make you have a lot of bright highlights and dark darks. Now, if you have softer lighting that's not that harsh, you're going to end up with more grays. I feel like that is more practical because then you really are seeing things. I think the grayscale, it's like it only goes so far. So that's the way to do it, or just like walking around. Walk around and look at those flowers and say, where would those flowers go on a grayscale? I dropped off my kid this morning and they had these black tulips that were by these white ones. And I'm so serious. I looked at them and was like, oh, look at that contrast between the white tulip and the black tulip. So sometimes just noticing value in real life. Like, for example, looking at this brush and saying, okay, this is a yellow brush, but value-wise, is this darker than middle gray or is it lighter than middle gray? I see it as lighter than middle gray. So I think sometimes just looking at it in real life. Oh, I think I missed a question. Somebody asked a question earlier about the painting that's behind me. Hopefully I can find it. Apologies if I don't find it, everybody. I need a moderator or something like that. Oh, here it is. Sorry about that, Rural Groom. How exactly did you create the painting behind you to get that moonlight glowing on their faces, as it's exceptional and face table? Been longing to do some of this on my artwork. Let's take a look. I haven't worked on this piece for a really long time, so I honestly can't remember. Okay, so what it is, I'll just hold it up here. It's a matter of transparency, okay? So there are areas like this white patch here. This white patch, it's very thin paint. And so this is called glazing. And I've put it over these patches of blue that are a little bit more opaque. So the answer to it is just varying degrees of transparency. Like up here on the eye, that white is pretty opaque. But up here, the white is pretty transparent. So it comes down to many layers of transparent paint, and that usually what has that glow that you're referring to. And kitchen lithography, very accessible for home printmaking. I guess I need to learn to do it then. People have told me about it many times, but I've never actually watched a video on it. I'd have to sit down, watch a video, and then troubleshoot it myself. So yes, I'd love to do that. I really wish they had a kitchen lithography demo at Southern Graphics Council Conference, although I'm really excited because I did shoot a demo with sugar lift. Sugar lift is one of those techniques. It makes no sense until you've actually done it. And the thing is, I don't have like a intaglio shop to be able to demonstrate that or shoot a video, but I'm happy that I have a demo, so at least you guys can understand what it is. And then maybe somebody wants me to fly me out to Boston. I will film all the printmaking stuff you guys want because I have two good friends in Boston. They each own a print shop. You guys saw Carolyn Muscat, probably she's the litho queen. I would love to go to her studio and just shoot litho videos. It'd be so amazing. But again, as everything comes down to having a budget. Piggy Butt is saying, has anyone had much experience with homemade / cold porcelain clay? Curious, but wondering how it holds up with time. In particular, I'm skeptical it won't just grow mold. Are you asking about porcelain clay that you would want to fire, or is it air dry? I don't have a ton of experience with clay, so I'm probably not the best person to ask. But you know something? This is kind of gross, but it works. When I was doing figurative sculptures during graduate school with ceramic clay, we would oftentimes take sheets of flannel and make them damp, and then we'd wrap it around the ceramic clay, and it would keep it very damp. It was great, because if you just use a plastic piece of paper, it dries out way faster. The flannel is really helpful, but here's the thing. Sometimes you get mold that grows because of it being that way. And so what we would do is we just would take a spray bottle, put a little bit of bleach inside, and you spray it on and it kills the mold. So actually that's the solution if you end up getting mold on any type of clay. Rusty says, any advice for dealing with self-doubt? MFA student here, feeling the yikes. Rusty, if you could follow up with something a little bit more specific, that would help me give you better advice. So whether you're feeling self-doubt about the future, or about maybe comparing yourself to your peers or something like that, would give me a little bit more structure. See here, you guys ask questions, I'm going to ask you 3 questions back. I can't help it. Karasu says, I'm participating in Mermaid this year. I'm heavily comparing myself to other artists. Don't feel like I've learned anything other than how to draw quickly. Any advice? I would ask yourself, Karasu, I'm doing this challenge, which is fantastic. I've seen other people do it. It looks like a lot of fun. But ask yourself, what am I trying to get out of this experience? Because sometimes we dive into those challenges and we're not really sure what the takeaway is going to be. So for example, somebody might just say, well, I just want to use that challenge to just make a lot of work. So maybe it's just quantity. Other people might say, well, I want to try focusing on one topic for a longer period of time, maybe because I've never done that before, okay? And the thing about these challenges is I think part of the fun is that you get to see other people doing it. But the thing is that inevitably is what happens, is you end up comparing yourself. So what I might do is only look at the other submissions once a week. And the rest of the time, don't look at anybody else's stuff. And then say, maybe, okay, on Friday, I'm going to look at the other submissions. So you really just separate looking at other people's work from you making work. Because let me tell you, if Winslow Homer is in the studio with me, I am dead in the water. I just am not a good artist when he's in the studio with me. And so it sounds selfish, but when I'm making my work, I cannot think about anything else because it has to be me, which is fine. And then you make the work outside of that context of seeing other people's stuff. And then when you're ready to take it in, because I think there's a time and a place for feedback. For example, I've had to be very disciplined about reading comments because I'm a little obsessed with comments. I don't reply to all of them. We have too many, but I read every single one. And the thing is, I realized at a certain point, I was sort of reading them throughout the day. And I realized it was making me sort of anxious because it's always the comments that are challenging or make me question what I do. When people say things, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so dumb. Why didn't I do that? And that is not always a good way for me to be productive during the day. So now I've told myself, I read comments in the morning. I write comments on social media here and there, and that's it. I don't look at the comments the rest of the day, because if I do, I do that. I start saying, Clara, you should have done this. People are very mad at me that I didn't wear a mask on one of the plaster mixing videos, and now I'm kicking myself because just didn't think of it. And yes, I feel like an idiot, but that stuff happens. Wait till you see the mega blunder I make on that casting video. It's really bad, you guys. And actually, I'll show you why it's bad. It's on my shelf. So this is the rubber mold that I made. So eventually I'll end up with this, and you guys can see this is what the inside of it looks like. Aaron Tveit's head is in there. But this is really, I've actually never made this mistake until I did this tutorial. It's that stupid. I think I have a little bit of an excuse because I haven't done this technique for 20 years. Like literally the last time I did it was in 2004. Okay, so I made this one mistake, and look at this, you guys. There's a hole. How did I make that mistake? I mean, I know how I did. I know exactly the thing that did that. But I was so mortified. I'm like, oh my God, I spent so much time shooting and preparing this tutorial. And here I am making this horrible blunder. And I'm okay with it because I think it's educational to see mistakes. But I'm just waiting to post that video to have 1 million professional mold people tell me what an idiot I am. But, you know, I don't care. I'm old. Avi is asking, what are the best easels? I'm thinking of getting an H style. Those are nice. I do have an H style one. I have one up here, which is behind me. This one is just a straight one. I do like the H easels better, especially if you want to do larger scale paintings. It is really helpful. It's more support. This one's not that great. I got it for free from Frederick's, and it's okay for just storing my work, but it's not really an easel I'd want to work on for like a big painting. And okay, so follow up from Karasu. Feel like my mermaid art is less professional than my other art. I don't feel like my art looks very professional. Karasu, unless you're actually doing professional gigs, it's not as important as it may seem. It's fine to aspire to that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't want your work to look professional, but I think when that really matters is when you've got the gig and people are paying you and they have expectations. Yes, then I would start stressing. But for now, really, if it's getting in the way, if it's making it hard for you to make your work, try to let that go because it's only making things more difficult for you. And Rusty is following up. I think it's the future that I'm scared of. I'm a good student, but the second I put down the paintbrush, I wonder if my effort is worth anything at all. I suspect, Rusty, this is the case for a lot of students I work with, because we do have our art school portfolios group, and I mentor people who are applying for their MFA, for their BFA program, and it's a great place to get feedback for these types of things. But basically, you really don't know what's going to happen. I mean, when I got out of graduate school, I was like, I'm going to teach academia. I'm going to make a life doing that. I mean, if you had told me I would be teaching online, that I would have left academia, I never would have believed you. And actually, I'd love to hear older folks chiming in on this, because I think for a lot of younger people, there is sometimes this pressure that, number one, you have to have it figured out. And number two, that you have to have a set path. And if you veer from that set path, somehow you're a failure. And I think that is not true. I think it's amazing when people pivot and do things differently. My lawyer, Greg Kanan, who you guys have seen here on live streams, he went to art school for film. He was a film producer for many years, switched to being a lawyer, and he loves it. I'm like, good for you. That's fantastic. So the whole thing about wondering whether it's worth it, that's a harder thing to quantify. I think it's about finding ways to have that satisfaction, whatever satiates you, in a way that does not require other people's approval. because I did that for a very long time, where I was always applying for things. I was always trying to get curators to look at my work. I mean, you really feel like you're on your hands and knees begging like crazy to everybody. And at a certain point, it gets really discouraging, because what you want is that, yes, I will do this for you. Yes, you can have this show. But the thing is, you cannot rely on that. There's no guarantee that anyone's ever going to say yes. So I decided that I have to find a way for my work to have meaning, even if nobody else cares about it. And so for me, a lot of it is I just like doing all different kinds of things. I mean, I just started doing illustration, and it was so out of the blue. And I put a portfolio together and I did all these things, and I haven't gotten back to it. I've been too busy doing other things. But any experience you have matters. It really, really does. And sometimes you don't think it does, because you think, oh, what does that have to do with being an artist? But there's a lot of things that help you that are not art related. So yeah, I'd love to hear from older folks about those pivots and the meandering road that life takes you on, and how it's really okay. You don't have to follow that path. Yeah, like Angela says here, you're only human. Karasu's asking, any advice on drawing backgrounds that have depth? Mostly use Adobe Fresco for digital, combination of markers, pens, color pencils, or traditional. Karasu, can you follow up on what type of background? Because it's very different if you're doing like an urban landscape, or if you're trying to draw, for example, a desert or something like that. And by the way, everybody, remember, we do have spots available in these workshops, landscapes and water, collage and mixed media. And these workshops, they're 2 weeks long. You get to get feedback from me in the Discord. There's a 3-hour-long live session. It's very immersive and focused. So if some of you guys are looking for that, that is something we do offer here at Art Prof. Okay, take a look. So Karasu, you have a bunch of questions. I'd like to get to some other people first before we get back to your questions, because I want to make sure everybody else has a chance to talk and ask their questions. And, oh, Nancy's here. Nancy, I don't know if you missed it, but I did unbox these beautiful golden fluid acrylics. Thank you so much. You're so kind to send those to me. And Nancy says, I appreciate when you show your mistakes. Yes, there's one right here. That's the mistake. It shows you're human, real, not pretending that art can be perfect. I think the best things come from our mistakes. Happy accidents. Yeah, except when you're pouring liquid plastic and it leaks. Like, that was so bad, because I was pouring it. I was like, why is this using so much plastic? The head is not that big. And then when I came back to it later, I was like, oh, that's why, because it was like leaking off the bottom. I love this. Like Artie String says, undergrad is in GD illustration, but I'm an e-learning instructional designer. Yeah, there's a lot of imposter syndrome with all of these things. Like Abby says, terrified to show my work to anyone except my closest friends. I enjoy doing my artwork, but I always doubt its, quote, worth. The worth is that it brings me joy. Okay, this doesn't sound that pretty, you guys, but I confess that one of the reasons I make work is to stay busy, because I think you guys have heard me talk in the past about mental health, but I'm the type of person, if I'm not doing something, my mind goes to dark places. And so when I'm making something and I'm busy and I've got my hand moving, I'm not doing that. So I'm the type of person, I go nuts if I'm not doing something. And so art is one of those things for me. I know it's not very romantic, but it is extremely important for me to keep my mental health together. Yeah, I love all these stories that people are talking about as far as where life can take you. Cat's Glitter Box says, when I finish oil pastel pictures, I spray them with Spectra Fix. I notice I can see the droplets when light hits my picture after it's dry. And so I'm supposed to spread this out with a brush to even it out. I've never used Spectra Fix before. Is it like regular fixative, like it comes in a spray can type of thing? Because typically you don't really want droplets after you've sprayed like a fixative or something on top. I did receive from somebody, bought me the Sennelier oil pastel fixative. I don't know that I've heard other brands that have that. And it seemed like it needed many, many layers, but I never got droplets on it. I mean, like, are the droplets like 3D or are they tiny? Again, 3 questions. Yeah, it seems like we're all very similar in art for mental health. Artie Strings, I need to make things or I'm not happy. Yeah, see, I love these stories. Older folks, if you're happy to share this, I find it very reassuring. This is why I like having friends who are older than me, because I call them and I'm freaking out about something. And when they say to me, it's okay, Clara, you're going to be fine. It's so nice to talk to people who are older because they just have so much more perspective on things. And so those of you guys who are younger, I know it's not always the easiest thing, but try to find somebody who's older than you that you can talk to. Like George says, graduated from engineering school during an economic slump, took a job with an environmental agency while I figured out what to do with my life, retired after 40 years, still trying to figure it out, but had a fun career and did a lot of things, a lot of good. Many of my colleagues followed the same path. Yeah, I just think that when we have expectations that we're going to do this one thing, that's when we get disappointed and frustrated. And so a big part of it is not having such rigid expectations for what you think is going to happen, because you don't have control over that. You do have control over whether you want to put Hugh Jackman on your desk. You know, like, this makes me happy. So I guess I can have Hugh Jackman on my desk and make art, and that will keep me happy, I suppose. Okay, so Cat's following up. Big spray bottle of workable fixative. They're flat but noticeable in light. I picked this one because it's non-toxic and not smelly. Yeah, I don't... Probably if you were to try it again, Cat's Glitter Box, I would try putting it on in thinner layers. Also, sometimes if you get a spray can that's not really consistent, it comes out not as a fine spray mist, and sometimes that can happen. Yeah, like Just here says, I'm in my 30s, started painting during a really difficult period of grief. I have people who come in here and they say, I'm 23, I think I'm too old to paint. I'm like, Grandma Moses started painting when she was 85. It is never too late to pick up a brush and do something. So Brandon has a question. Do you have advice for uploading art you copy? I copy shots from cartoons and well-known comics. I want to upload them, but I'm not sure if it's plagiarism. So this is a much longer conversation, and I would refer you to the copyright area of our website. It's under professional development. So if you look in the main menu bar, you will find several videos that are about that. But the main thing is it only matters if you are claiming that to be your own, and especially if you're selling it, okay? So let's say you copy a Wolverine cartoon and you put it on Instagram, okay? If you say, I invented Wolverine, I'm the one that came up with this. Yeah, that's not cool, okay? But if you go on and you say, I'm obsessed with Wolverine, I've watched all his movies, I thought it'd be fun to draw him, then you're acknowledging, oh, that's not my thing, I'm just doing it for fun. That's it. Usually the plagiarism thing comes in because somebody's trying to sell something. So usually it's fine. If you're just like practicing, I don't think it matters as long as you give explanation wherever you post it, exactly what it is. Okay, so Karasu, let's follow up on the background. Struggle to draw buildings and brick walls. I would try to look at the background more abstractly. I know that sounds really difficult, but I think sometimes if we think too hard, this is a brick wall, this is a street lamp, like just look at the shape. If you look at the silhouette of a building, it's very particular. Like if you think about the Eiffel Tower, that has a very specific silhouette. So instead of thinking about all the little pieces, all the windows and stuff like that, just look at the silhouette because that will help a lot. Because the thing about brick walls, they're not important if you don't have the building. And so I suspect, Karasu, probably you're getting a little sucked into details. And if you can make the pieces more simple, more about silhouettes and shapes that overlap, that might make it a little bit more digestible. Yes, it is really great to have friends so you can freak out together. But I'll tell you, as an artist, I was talking to somebody about this the other day because I had a former student who was really having a hard time. And I said to them, listen, the good thing here is that, okay, this thing bad happened, okay, but you knew who to call. You had people who were there ready to scoop you up and get you back on your feet. And so, whoever that is, maybe it's us. A lot of people tell us that they don't have art friends and they have trouble finding people. And so if we're the ones, you come into the Discord and you tell us, I'm so frustrated, or like you guys are right now on the live stream. I mean, I'm older than a lot of you, I think. So there you go. So what I'm trying to say is it doesn't even have to be a real life person in, well, no, I mean, it should be a real person. I'm not talking about chat GPT, but the point that I'm trying to say is that you have to create a support system for yourself. And a lot of that is about seeking out people who are more experienced than you if you can, but you also need those peers as well. But I have certain people who I call them my hotlines. Like I have this one friend, she's my parenting hotline. So something goes wrong with my kids and I'm upset about it, I call her. Andrew Raftery is my academia artist hotline. Oh God, you guys would not believe the number of times I've called him crying because academia traumatized me. So yeah. Oh, it sprays like hair detangler, if that helps clarify. Maybe that's it because the spray bottles that you use for like spray paint, they're more reliable in terms of consistency. And this is a great point from Lisa. I think doing something to improve your mental health is very important. Strangely, I don't think many people share that's a fundamental aspect of their motivation. Because I just spent so many years waiting for other people's approval, applying for jobs in academia, trying to apply for grants, residencies, all these things. And I just got so tired of waiting for someone else's approval. And so that's one thing I do really appreciate about being my own boss is if I want to do something, I just do it. I don't have to wait for somebody to tell me that it's okay. I proposed this class to RISD illustration, I think, gosh, at least 4 times. I wanted to teach an elective called Personal Narratives and Drawing every year. No. I'm like, dude, I'm going to just make my own art school and I'm going to post the personal narratives track, which is what is on the website right now. And so for me, that was just such a relief to feel that I had agency over what was happening. That was a huge part of my frustration with academia, is just feeling like my hands were totally tied. And I hated that. It made me feel really bad about myself. And Blue Wolf says, 60 is the new 40. Obvious 68. In my head, I'm 35. And wow, we got a lot of great comments about fixative. So fantastic. Yeah, so Mystical Ren says, none of my plans have worked in this lifetime, but all those detours led me here. Back to art. I'm in my mid-50s. Yep. And sometimes the thing that you thought wasn't that great is awesome. Or, okay, so here's a really great example. So I always imagined when I was in academia that, oh, the greatest place my artwork could ever be would be in a museum. Now, yes, I would not complain if I joined a couple museum collections. I'm only in one collection, and I feel kind of dumb about it because it's the Hood Art Museum at Dartmouth College. That's the collection I'm in. But you know what? I didn't even get collected. The reason I'm in that collection is because a print collector really liked my work and he bought some of my prints and donated it to the collection. I'm like, oh, that doesn't even really count because like a curator didn't curate me into the collection. So I feel a little bit silly about that. But anyway, the whole thing is that you have to find ways to invent other situations. So I always thought, oh, museum, that's it, right? One of my highlights, some of you guys may have seen that portrait I did of Yvette Gonzalez Nasser. She was playing Satine in Moulin Rouge. And oh my God, giving that portrait to her was so much better than being in any museum. I was like, wow, this is so fun. And yes, I'm still on a mission. I need to find out if Aaron Tveit actually got the bust to find out. I'm going to his concert next Friday or Saturday. Can't remember. Anyway, I'm going to see. Hopefully he does a stage door so I can ask. Who knows if he will. But I'm still on a mission. I'm like, I really, really, really want to know if he got it. I don't know. I'm a little scared that they tossed it because it had red spray paint on it. Well, car automotive paint is actually what was on it. Yeah, don't be nervous about asking questions here. Why do you think we have the Q&As? It's so you guys can ask any question. Because chances are, if one of you has thought something, there's at least 15 other people in the chat who have felt that way, probably way more, especially when it comes to things like imposter syndrome and being concerned about that. C-Wing says, I've always been a good artist. I'm 59, but only recently am I able to paint the way I want. Think it took all this time to get out of my own way. That is so well said, because I think oftentimes a lot of the issues we have, the things that keep us from doing the thing we want, a lot of times it's self-imposed. We have to get out of our own way to be able to do certain things. Because actually what was very interesting is I had a lot of reservations about leaving academia. It was a very, very hard decision for me to make. And honestly, I should have left like 10 years earlier in retrospect. But when I made that decision and I was full-time here, I had so much more fun making content because all the hangups that I had about academia and being perceived a certain way, it just all went away. I was like, I can just do whatever, because I used to worry all the time about, oh, how will this be perceived if somebody finds my stuff? I was trying to hide that I was on YouTube, and just leaving, it was just a huge burden came off my shoulders. And that was just, everything for me. And so I feel like just leaving academia, I became a better content creator because I can be the person I really want to be, not what I wanted my colleagues to think about me. Because what I thought was really great, so I was telling this to Andrew after, I said, listen, I still sort of have this hang up about how people and my academia colleagues perceive me. And I love that he said this to me. He said, Clara, those people, they've already made up their mind about you. And the only people that matter are the people who are new, who are engaging with your work for the first time. They are the ones that matter. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so smart, because it's true. How many colleagues did I really have? I don't know, 50? Not that many. And it's like, yeah, that's just 50 people on the planet. And it's true. They've made up their mind. They've decided that YouTube is trash and none of it's worth it. I'm like, fine, I don't want to talk to you. Yeah, I don't know why Gen X is always referred to as the forgotten generation, because everybody talks about everybody but us. I'm like, dude, we're here. Constance is asking, how do you keep an oil pastel painting from smearing? I usually make sure I store my oil pastel drawing with either parchment paper or tracing paper. You don't want to use something like newsprint because it's going to pull off the oil pastel, but that usually works. Or you can buy an oil pastel that is stiffer. Sennelier is like lipstick. It's going to smear everywhere. But if you buy a brand like, let's say, Caran d'Ache, those are usually a little bit stiffer. So sometimes that really helps. Thank you so much, Nancy, for the super sticker. You're so kind. Thank you so much, AVZ. We so much appreciate your support. You guys are the ones keeping the lights on here at Art Prof. Emily says, I want to go to art school, but I don't know where to start. I was wondering if you have any tips for people to start. Is it still possible if I can still make my portfolio with just 6 months left? I can't really give you an accurate answer because I haven't seen your work, Emily, but the best way to get started would be to join our Discord, because our Discord, I'm there all day, and we have fabulous moderators and people are very supportive. And if they're not, we boot them out really, really fast. If you get into the Discord, that's where we can provide recommendations for how you can get started, because it's a big question and we're happy to help you with it, but it's better answered at the Discord where we can actually send you towards different things. Yes, I gave myself tenure, George. Nobody's firing me from this place. Annie's asking, this live is very inspiring. Will this going to be re-uploaded as a separate video? No, it's going to show up. So right after the stream ends, you'll be able to watch the replay. That's the case with all the live streams. And actually, I'm very curious. So I know some people don't like the vertical format here, but it's something new we're trying because a new feature that YouTube rolled out. And the thinking behind it is that a vertical live stream will show up in the shorts feed. The horizontal ones don't. You have to choose to click on it. But as you guys know, in the shorts feed, just like TikTok and Instagram, you just go through and stuff just shows up. And so this live stream is doing that. So I'm wondering who here found us through the shorts feed and not because you found us somewhere else. Like, I'm wondering if that's actually working. I have no idea, but tell me in the comments if that is you, because then I will have concrete evidence that yes, vertical live streaming is bringing some new people in. So we'll see. And Avi is asking about best varnish for acrylic paintings. The more important thing is to figure out, do you want matte or satin or gloss? Those are the 3 different types of varnishes. I always tell people, no matter what varnish you use, always take a photo of the painting first, because once you apply the varnish, it's awful to take a photo of. I'm not saying that you can't take a photo after, it's just all that glare that comes from the varnishes. It's such a pain to photograph. We are live 3 times a week. Friday night hangouts at 10 Eastern, Tuesday evenings, 10 p.m. Eastern, and then Sunday, 12 p.m. Eastern. So yes, 3 times a week. And we also have a live stream schedule on our website. So if you have not been to our website, I think you guys should go there, because I spend so much time working on the website, and I would love for all of you to see what's on there, because there's a lot of stuff that is not available anywhere else that is available on our website. So that is artprof.org. Thank you so much, Studio Tinidril, sorry. After more than 50 years making art, this program from Art Prof has been a lifeline. Thanks so much. I've been loving your YouTube shorts too. Thank you. See, I love you guys. Like, I could not do this if I didn't have the support and encouragement from everybody here. It's really quite extraordinary. looks like Uni says, I submitted for art pieces to add state art competition. Can't believe I was brave enough. And even if I'm not accepted, I could not have even thought of doing it without everything I learned here. I'm so proud of you, Uni. I know that is a big leap to put yourself out there, but I think that's fantastic. So great job. Keep it going. I'm really, really proud of you about that. And we also have Alex who says, here because of the shorts. Yes, it's working. I'm very excited. Constance says, parchment paper for oil for pastel paintings. How do you frame oil pastel paintings, glass or none? Definitely glass, because oil pastels never dry. And so if you don't have them under glass, they won't be protected. Angela's asking, is it necessary to varnish acrylic paintings? It's not. I have a bunch that are not varnished. I think if I were going to sell the painting, then I would definitely varnish it. So you want to protect it. But it's really not a big deal if you're not sending it to another person. Well, welcome, Expired Lemon. So happy to have you all here. And Emily found us on other YouTube channels who recommended us. Well, I hope we can say thank you to some of those other channels. All right, everybody. We do have a podcast. It's available on Spotify and also on iTunes. And visit artprof.org. So much content on there that is not on YouTube. And remember, we do have a giveaway for Open Studios Club. This is a place where you can hang out on Voice, make art friends. It's super fun. It's holding me accountable to making my work. And so if you join our Discord, there is one free session of Open Studios Club for everybody in our Discord. By the way, we don't do live chats in the Discord after Friday night hangouts, but we do it on Tuesday evenings and Sunday. Sunday, we are doing art school portfolios for next year. A lot of people are already asking me about it. So I figure now is a good time to get started. Subscribe to our channel for more tutorials, critiques, and business tips. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.